Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Happy Friday. Welcome to Facts and Two Cents. This is Petal. Hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are, whatever you're doing in the world. I hope you are having a great day. As you know, again, welcome. We are a channel that supports the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan, and Archie and Lily and Mama Doria and all their animals, Poola, Guy, the chickens, all of them. We are here supporting them. And also, we are also doling out some facts about other stuff that's going on in the world. And also, too, we jump across the pond, which will be for a little bit today as well. And, looking at what the others on Shutter Island are doing. So, welcome. This is a recording. I'm doing this and I'm going to be posting it later on today. And I will be in the chat live with you. Hopefully, you're able to join us in the chat. Anyways, what is going on in the world of our faves? Well, our faves are relaxing in Montecito, doing whatever it is they're doing. And we are just happy that they're doing that. It was just last week that we had them all of the week. Actually, we had Harry even before that. He was there from the Thursday before. We had him. He was in the UK and then he went to Germany for the start of the games. And then we had him that weekend and we had him all of last week and him and Meghan all of last week. So I am sure they are probably getting a 2-week rest, especially Harry, 2-week rest of just the daily, every single day at the games, which we all enjoyed. And of course, the first picture there is actually, that was done on Harry's birthday when they were singing him happy birthday. And of course, Harry's very bashful and Meghan is like, Harry is so shy and so modest and humble. And that's the thing that people always talk about him, and so he was one of those, it's like, oh gosh, stop singing already. I'm already embarrassed. I am totally understand Harry. I am the same way. So totally understand, but I'm really happy he had a great birthday with all of his friends and his extended family, his military family. And of course, then the other picture is in New York a couple of years ago when they were here for the Global Citizens Concert. And I chose that picture because tomorrow is the Global Citizens Concert in New York. And I only found that out last night. So I was like, oh, really? I had no idea. I don't know where my mind has been. And I only found it out last night. So I was like, well, in honor of that, there is this. Of course, we all remember they were advocating for vaccine equity. And they also, they had also visited the UN. They also visited the US ambassador to the UN, Linda Greenfield. I hope I said her name right. And so she actually also came to the event and they introduced her. They spoke and they did their bit here with Meghan putting her head on his shoulders. So we were all like, oh. And then they introduced the US ambassador to the UN. And so it was a wonderful time. It's so funny. We're all talking about UN now with the whole, William in New York nonsense that he was doing. But, but in honor of all of that, that's why I was just like, oh, memory of that event, which is going to be happening tomorrow. So, like 1 million people, it seems, going to be descending on the park. And so it's so funny, actually. I think I'm going to go online and see. I'm sure I'm so late for tickets. They're probably like, no more tickets. Again, I only realized last night that the concert was coming up tomorrow. So it's just like, oh Lord, where have you been? So we will see if I can get tickets. But anyways, wonderful. Again, our faves are under a tree. Let them just stay under a tree and relax, doing whatever they're doing there. And then when they want us to see us again, when they want us to see them again, I'm sure we will, Lord willing. Keeps them wonderful, safe, and happy. So that's all we are praying for them. And it's so funny. The accolades or just the thanks and just the thank you, Prince Harry, for creating the Invictus Games and how many people's lives that it has touched. I mean, the all the accolades, the thanks, I mean, all over social media, just people are just really so grateful for those games and what it has done for the veterans of these communities and veterans of these countries or towns, or, you know, like I said yesterday on a yesterday podcast, all these towns, the athletes are all claiming they're athletes. You know, it's like Dundas athlete, you know, whatever the name is, Rory, you know, Figliola, you know, and so it is just, it's wonderful to see how people are excited to see their veterans get help and to just go and you know, and just really display the you know, the invictus spirit, or just go and fight through whatever it is they're going through. And you know, it's so funny because not funny, haha, but it's you know, I hadn't realized just how controversial the military is and war is. And I mean, it's controversial no matter where it is, but it has a different take in Germany. It has there, I didn't realize how war averse they are, how, I mean, for obvious reason from their past history with war, obviously. But it is so, I mean, I didn't realize the culture and how much, you know, even, and I didn't even realize it too for the Invictus Games, that there were a section of the public that did not appreciate the games coming there. There was a section of the public that thought that they were going to be glorifying war. Of course, it's not. You know, they thought they were going to, you know, they were just, you know, basically want to make war acceptable. There's a very anti-war sentiment in Germany. And I didn't realize, you know, until I really read this article, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how deep it ran. And again, for obvious reason, so much so that, you know, and when I read this part of this article by the European, by Tanit Koch, she did a great job writing this article. But she was just talking about Germans and their aversion to war or the military or any of those things. And so this is a little bit of the article, and then we're going to get to the article, what I have on the screen. But it says, to further illustrates Germany's complicated bond with the Bundeswehr. I don't know. Look at Wikipedia. English Language Wiki explains German Armed Forces Deployment Medals, introduced in 1996 as an award for military service in a designated military campaign. But you won't find the M word, i.e., military. You wouldn't find the M word on German Wiki, which states that the medals is awarded for deployment or special assignment abroad, or humanitarian or peacekeeping or peace building measures. We have decided to be in we have decided to be in the peace business, which also means please don't call it war. So, you know, like some of their soldiers maybe fighting with the allied forces or whatever, you wouldn't find military in their Wikipedia. They don't use military, or they call it the M word. They don't want anything to do with this. Is how deep it ran. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And it says more than 20 had already been killed in Afghanistan, and yet the official wording remained stabilizing mission, combat mission at most, but war couldn't be. Because in addition, many soldiers' life insurance stated, albeit in small print, that it wouldn't pay out. It wouldn't pay out for fatalities in war. Another 3 soldiers had to fall before the new defense minister broke the taboo in 2010 and used the Krieg, which described the situation in Afghanistan. I mean, it's so much so that they would not call it war. Their insurance wouldn't cover. If you die in war, the insurance is not covering it as long as it's called a war. It could be called a peacekeeping mission. It could be called whatever you want to, but don't call it war. Don't call it military. And I mean, I hadn't realized how deeply that, I mean, it to that extent. And so that's, I mean, that when you get to that level, no wonder then when they heard like Invictus is coming in, it's going to be war veterans, people who've, fought in previous wars and all of those things. No wonder, and albeit small section of them were a little bit apprehensive about this thing, this Invictus Games coming in and what it represents, and are they going to be glorifying war? Because again, the German people don't want anything to do with war, and it was so averse. They were so like not even wanting to deal with it that it's not until Ukraine, what's going on in Ukraine, that they are fully now engaged in helping Ukraine and supporting Ukraine in war. But they literally wanted nothing to do with any of it. And again, for obvious reasons. And so pick up the article. I'm just going to move my little brand there, so we can read all of the article. There you go. And picking up at the end, it says, thanks to his Invictus Games, traumatized German soldiers have been brought rightly into the limelight. And so it was talking about all of those things that I was just mentioning. And then so the end of the article reads, it says, and then came Harry, modest, thoughtful, honoring the veterans. He spoke about comradeship so naturally, it was far from glorifying heroism. Instead, accompanied by Meghan, he patiently explained the horrific consequences of war on soldiers, shook hands, drank local beer, tipped generously, smiled for selfies, sat through 80 minutes of a German most popular sports TV show, DAC Actual Sports Studio. I don't know. He even had the grace to lose against our defense minister, Boris Pistorius, when shooting a football at its famous gold wall with 2 holes in it. Thanks to his Invictus Games, traumatized and disabled German veterans received more airtime and visibility in a week during prime time than they had in the previous 10 years. They were shown to be part of society and not an isolated part. So thank you for your service, Harry. And again, when she was talking about, then came Harry with what basically what he was mentioning there is, because Germans were so averse to anything war, they wouldn't even say the name war, military. All the men and women who pretty much served and sacrificed their life for their country were pretty much thrown to the side as well. And so they were basically disregarded and pushed to the side because nobody wanted to deal with war. Nobody wanted to deal with the veterans who came back and sacrificed their life and lost limbs or whatever invisible wound they came back with. All of them were equally pushed aside. And that's why she was saying, and then came Harry. And what he brought, and now because of what they did for the Invictus Game, with the Invictus Games, it brought the German soldiers who gave up so much to defend their country, brought them back into the spotlight, not glorifying war or any of those things. And that's why it was so important that she wrote this, and then came Harry, modest, thoughtful, honoring the veterans. He spoke of comradeship so naturally that it was far from glorifying heroism. Instead, accompanied by Meghan, he patiently explained the horrific consequences of war on soldiers. And that is the crux. I mean, that's why they're all so grateful, because it's like, wow, Harry and the Invictus Games have given the soldiers what was basically taken away from them and ripped away from them. I remember there was one military police. She said, she basically said, like, she didn't, don't expect honor and all of those things, but she almost died, and it feel like nobody cares. Nobody cares that she gave so much for the country, and nobody cares. And then with Invictus Games, it just brought them back into the spotlight. And like it's saying, it has given them more visibility. It says, thanks to the Invictus Games, traumatized and disabled German soldiers received more airtime and visibility than they've done in the past 10 years. In 1 week, this is what it did. And all of a sudden, it's like, wow, we need to honor these men and women for what they have done and what they've given. And look at how what they are doing, and look at the human spirit. And that is why now, they're going to be having the German games, the German Invictus games, because all of a sudden they see the benefit of how, and again, it's so important, the benefit of having not just within the military community, but within society at large. Because again, these people and their disabilities and all of those things were pushed to the side along with everybody else. And all of a sudden is a new way of looking at these men and women and their courage that they are displaying there on the field, and that they could bring into your community and into real life. And it just, I mean, I am just so like, yes, 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 yes. Thank you, Tanit Kosh, for writing this article, because it speaks so well to the heart of Prince Harry. It speaks so well to the heart of the Invictus Games and what it has done and given. And I'm so happy for these men and women, because now, because of the games, they're going to have their games every year with other countries that are around, and also all the Americans that are in their bases in Germany, to really come together and honor each other and really support each other. It is just such a wonderful thing. So kudos to, again, Prince Harry and Invictus and what they have given to the veterans in Germany. So I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So yeah. And if you are interested in watching, recapping the full event, which I'm actually going to go back and do, it's on YouTube actually. CBC, which has done a great job in bringing the games along, obviously, along with obviously the Invictus Games Dusseldorf. CBC, which I think is a Canadian news outlet, they were also carrying the games, and so they have a full recap on their YouTube channel. I'm going to put it in our show notes. I'm also going to do it at our community page. So if you want to go and have a recap, if you didn't get a chance to, and if you missed some of it, I did. So I'm going to go back and get the full recap of it as well. So absolutely looking forward to watching that. And also, it's so funny. One of the people, I guess he was one of the officials from the games, and they were this is what the stadium looked like. And we talked about how they partitioned off different parts of this humongous stadium to have all the different sports within the stadium, and they created these private spaces within the stadium to hold the different events. And it's just so genius how they did that. Like, you can walk up the stairs and walk down into another event. It's absolutely amazing how they did it. And be able to they can have all these different events in one place and all going on at the same time. And you get to walk from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And it's all free. And again, because Amazon, Jeff Bezos bought all the tickets so people could go for free. And it's just, apart from the open and closing ceremonies, obviously. And so wonderful that Karen came on a couple of days ago and was telling us about having tickets and then giving tickets and giving tickets to some people who didn't have, and was able to sell some that she had. And so it was great, but it was so genius. But the official was like, they were breaking it all down, and he was like almost in tears, because like, oh my gosh, it's over, and so they were pulling it all apart. And so it just like, I mean, it's amazing how they were able to do this and then set it all back up when they were doing the closing ceremony. Then it becomes this one big huge space. It's just genius. And I'm thinking they're all on wheels and locks and stuff, so you lock it, unlock it, and can move the whole structure. It's just like, it's amazing how they did it, and it worked wonderful. So great job. I would assume other stadiums would be, taking this. I'm assuming, because the one in Vancouver also is a huge stadium. So who knows, they might be taking this model and doing it the same thing there as well, where they can keep all of the, different sports in one place. So who knows how they're doing it, but great job of this. So I'm of course going through withdrawals. I'm sure you are as well. So again, CBC, go there. I will be going there as well to get a recap, and of course looking at all the pictures again for like the 50 millionth time. So yes. But before we go in, as you can see on the bottom, the scrolly thing going by there, subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Click the notification bell so you know when we drop a video. And please like and share the video. Help us to grow the channel. And if you're able, join the channel where you support the channel on a monthly basis. Thank you all so much who have already joined our channel. So there. Okay, moving on. This is really cool. Chef Andreas, who is, started World Central Kitchen, and they basically feed the world in disaster. So they are all over where there is a disaster of some kind. They run to the struggle. They're in Ukraine, they're in Morocco, they're all over the place. And so because with climate change and all of those things going on, so they wrote a book. Chef Andres wrote a cookbook, and so we also know that Meghan also contributed to it. She did her olive oil cake, I think it's called, and so I think it's a lemon olive oil cake, or it's just olive oil cake. But when Invictus was doing something, I think in Chicago, she sent the cake to them so that they can, be able to have some dessert. And so she contributed her recipe to Chef Andreas' book, and look. It's on the New York Times. It actually just came out, a week and something ago. And it's now number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list. So again, whatever Meghan is in is always on that bestseller list. So I'm going to have the link in the show notes. So if you'd like to go ahead and purchase Chef Andreas' cookbook, definitely go ahead. I'm sure the profits and the proceeds are going towards World Central Kitchen as they do their work around the world. And of course, we know the Sussexes support their work and fund their work around the world. They build kitchens and all of that stuff around the world. So kudos to Chef Andreas and World Central Kitchen. I may or may not be getting the book. I'm not a cook. I just, I am horrible in the kitchen, so that would be a lost cause on me. But if you want to go ahead and if you're better in the kitchen than I am, go for it and support World Central Kitchen. So again, of course, our girl Meghan's recipe is in there. And of course, we were talking about Chef Andreas yesterday when they were touting him as being part of William's New York mess. And he still has not tweeted anything, as I've seen, anything about William's thing in New York. He was listed as one of the presenters, and whether he sent in a video or something to them, I have no idea. But he definitely wasn't there because he was at the Clinton Foundation event. So who knows what happened there? But we know the Sussexes and him are great friends. So there. What else is happening? Oh, talk about William's New York mess. This is where, it's so funny watching the British press desperately try to somehow salvage for William the mess that was New York. And of course they can't do it. And then they can't lie because they don't have control of the narrative when it's not on Shutter Island, it's here. And so if they lie, they know New Yorkers are right here. The press is right here, would just call them out on their lies. So they're not that stupid to go be lying about something they can't control, And so they're desperately now it's William's trip was quiet, which makes it better than Harry, because when Harry was there, we had the whole paparazzi chasing them nonsense. And so not nonsense, it did happen, but the whole drama around it was crazy and lies and nonsense. But so now William is better than Harry because he was able to go run in the park and nobody noticed him, and see how quiet, and even though he's king, he could do that. It's like nobody cares about William. Paparazzi are not going to go out there following William, because why? Those pictures would never sell. Nobody cares. But of course they don't want to do that. But it's like as was showed yesterday, their whole front page the day after William's big event, not one British news outlet had him on their front page. Not only did they not have him on their front page, they had nothing about Earthshot on their front page at all. It's buried, I'm sure, somewhere in their article, in their newspapers. I'm sure there's probably stuff about it. I'm assuming it's in there somewhere. But one of the things that that stood out, and I literally had to, it's so funny, I'm like, sheesh, I don't read British tabloids, but today I had to. Because I'm like, when I'm sitting here agreeing with a Daily Mail article, and it's happened once before when they were in the Caribbean, and the same British press reporter, Jan Moore, there you go, Jan Moore, I think is it. There you go. And this is the second time she's written an article after William has gone on a trip. Again, well, she may have written more, I don't know, but the one that I remember, and I did it on here, was when they came back from the Caribbean tour, when it was a mess, and she basically ripped it to shreds, which is what she's doing right now. And so, if you read the article, definitely do the archive version where the Daily Mail get no money from that. It's archive, which is what I'm using right now. But she has basically done the same thing, and she's talking about, is basically the royal family dead? She's like, I don't see the point of the royal family right now. I don't see the point of why they even exist. And the first part she was talking about the King Charles in France. They are on. I did they wrap it up yesterday or they're doing it today? Something like, I think it's like 2 or 3 days they're in France. And basically she's talking about, apparently King Charles did some faux pas in France with a speech. And I don't know, because I didn't listen to it and I didn't read about it. So I don't exactly know what she is talking about, but apparently some faux pas with a speech. I don't ask. All I knew about, he was doing a speech and he was doing it in French because he's fluent in French. The Queen was as well, something William would never be because he's too lazy and he would never learn any of that. He wouldn't even learn Welsh because even as the Prince of Wales, he's not going to learn. He's just not interested. So anyway, so she's talking about it. And then she's also talking about Camilla, who looks like she would rather be anywhere but there. She, apparently, according to Jan Moore, that she looks like she'd rather be home in her house with a drink in one hand and a cigarette in one hand and her dog laying in her lap. Which, I mean, I don't understand what the British press and the British people expected from Camilla. This has always been Camilla. I mean, she was described by them as one of the laziest people in the world who's never really had a real job. And so I don't understand what they expected from Camilla. Did you expect her to change because she now has a new title? Did you expect her to do? I mean, I don't understand. Y'all hounded Diana to death to get her. So now you get her. What are you complaining about? She isn't any different from she was back then. She was always like this. So I don't understand what the complaint is, and it's like, she looks like she'd rather be in her house. Yeah, which is, I don't even know that she and Charles actually even live together. She spends most of her time at Raymel, I think is her name of her house. You know what I mean? Again, this is what y'all advocated for. Again, y'all bullied Princess Diana. You bullied her and basically destroyed her life and sided with Camilla. So, well, this is what you got. So no need to complain now, and again, the same thing with William. Y'all bullied the Sussexes out of the UK. So don't be complaining about William because, again, this is what y'all advocated for. You fought for, you kicked the people who were the most productive out of the royals. You bullied them out of the country. So then you're getting what you want. Remember, you wanted this, remember? So, but anyway, this is what she says, forgetting about, Charles and Camilla, whatever it is they're doing in France. This is what she said, pretty much about the Queen's death and about William. And this is 2 clippings from the article. She says, since the Queen died, I have struggled to see what the point is, of the royal family anymore. Is that wrong? Once this dignified, dutiful, much-loved patriarch left us for the great place in the sky, moving on, she took the last drop of regal charisma with her. Along with my devotion, all we are left with now is the well-meaning but essentially ho-hum next generation, the second tier on the crumbling cake, the monarchical sub-bench. If questions are raised about the value of their individual and collective roles within the UK, then the issue of their significance gets even more crucial when they venture abroad. And if that wasn't bad enough, she's talking about Charles and Camilla, whatever mess they're making in France. If that wasn't bad enough, Prince William in America was even worse. He was speaking in New York as the finalists were announced for his flagship environmental project, Earthshot Prize. The prince appeared in front of an audience that included Bill Gates, UN climate envoy Mike Bloomberg, and former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, or as I like to call them, people with nothing better to do. They certainly must have wished they were on an Earthshot the hell out of there when William began speaking. And this is what some of what William says. And William is like, I think if we remark on how pessimistic and doom and gloom everything is, even though there's a healthy dose of that needed, it doesn't provoke the reaction from us humans that we would like, he blithered. Honestly, who writes this banal guff for him? Then he went to inspect some oyster beds. Don't ask me why. And it goes on to whatever else she says. But it's just like, I thought it was really funny. I'm like somebody who's just blatantly honest with the mess that New York was and the ridiculous of what New York was, which William basically said the quiet things out loud, that Earthshot Prize is not about philanthropy and people giving, because of the good of the country. It's a commercial venture. This is not a charity. This is not philanthropy. This is making money off of environmental stuff. This is, and it's just like, are you supposed to say that? I don't know that you're supposed to say that out loud, because many people think this is about, charity and stuff, and so again, it was just like, oops, and then what is that nonsense? I mean, I'm reading that like, what is he trying to say? And like she says, even with Bill Gates and Mike Bloomberg and stuff, it's like, she's like, like she would say, people with nothing better to do with their day than to sit there listening to William, trying to convince himself and the world that he's somehow a global statesman, which he's not. And then the stupid oyster bed thing that he did, it's just like, what on earth? And again, talking about commercial thing, of course, this is with a group in New York that is trying to do something with oysters on Governor's Island. And again, ew with that water. But don't be surprised if somehow, you hear some kind of investment or some money or something like that related to that place, because why are you know what I mean? There's got to be some reason financially why William was at that place. At least that's what I'm thinking. I don't have any evidence for that, but to just for no reason at all end up in Governor's Island and an oyster. Knowing how the royal family work, there's some money there somewhere. That's what I'm thinking. But anyways, again, exposing the ridiculousness of the royal family. No matter how they want to try to, and again, the fact that William was nowhere on the front pages of any of their news outlets, they don't even really want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. Why? Because they brought a whole press team to New York to do this big thing that was supposed to blow Harry and Meghan out of the water, that was supposed to put William on the global stage, that was supposed to make him according to that fake poll, the most popular person, more popular than, Zelensky and President Biden and just about every other person. This was supposed to be the thing for William. And then he, all he got was 20 minutes with the UN Secretary General. And then the New York mayor was like, peace out, dude. Later, I can't, And then it's just like, end up with scheduling thing with a fire department just because Harry did in a tourist location. And then you block off areas and have cameras and all that stuff. Of course, tourists and curious New Yorkers are going to come and be like, what's happening? And look, I don't begrudge him, the people that were there, there's in America, it's like that. There's a market for just about everything. So But the whole notion of, with all of that nonsense and him going in the park and jogging and all that, and nobody knew. I was like, yeah, because nobody cares. All of that thing to try to somehow salvage and make, somehow get a narrative that it was a success. And it's just like, no, you can't. As one squatty posted, she's like, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's just not gonna work. And the New York trip was the pig. You can't dress it up. It made no sense. It did not work. It just, I and for once, again, this is my second time agreeing with this person, Jan Moir, or Noir, I think it's Moir, Moir, or yeah, Moir. I have to agree with her, even though she's writing for the Daily Mail. Of all, again, as Stacey Abrams says, a broken clock is right one time every day. And there we are, And so, yeah, I agree with her. It's like, it was nonsense. And I agree with her. What is the point of this royal family? There is no point to them at all, in any sense of the word. It is just absolute nonsense. So, anyways, moving on from William and his nonsense. Just like, dude, we talked about this a few episodes back about Nana Okua and this article she wrote about the parade, the carnival that they had in August. And so this is the Notting Hill Carnival. It's a big deal. Over 2 million people were there. And apparently she wrote this article, basically calling it an embarrassment, an insult, as she says, And so she wrote this article. Her name is in the byline there, her picture. And then she even tweeted about it and was advertising it. And that she wrote this article. And then not too long after, a few weeks later, there was this whole big discussion on Twitter, and we talked about this. This girl, Dominique, she also, as we know, Nana works at GB News, and Dominique used to, or I don't know if she still works there, but she, she sort of joined the chat basically, and basically exposed that, look, that article, the Daily Mail had approached her to write this article, and she said no. And then she exposed that they used ghost writers, and they had asked her to front this article, basically put her black face and her name on this article, but that the article was actually written by a white person, seemingly white person at the Daily Mail. And this racist article, and they were like, well, it's race, bordering on racism. I call it racism, no matter what. For me, it's not bordering at all. For me, that's what it is. And so Nels Abbey and other prominent people in the UK, when she came out and revealed that the Daily Mail, and apparently others may be doing it as well, where they have racist, basically white reporters writing racist articles and paying black reporters to put their face and their name on the article as if they were the ones who write it. So Nels and others then contacted Nana. It's like, okay, did you write that article? That article we just looked at about the Notting Hill Carnival. And instead of answering, she basically called them that they were being racist towards her. That's what she's saying about the black people who were asking her, since Dominique confessed that she as well put her face on other articles, including one where she was bashing Meghan, and that she didn't actually write that article. It was written by one of the people at the Daily Mail, and she put her name and face on it, which now she claims that, oh, that was her feelings anyway, but whatever. So they were asking Nana, was it you that wrote that article, or was it ghost written and they paid you to put your face and the name on it? And instead of answering, one, she accused them of being racist towards her, and then she blocked them, which basically told us what exactly happened. And so Nels wrote this article, and I'm going to look at the article later. He says, for decades, I have researched, written about, satirized racism in Britain. Yet even I am still shocked at the extent of racism laundering at the Daily Mail. Dominique Samuels, the sister who sat by the door, basically gatekeeping for white supremacy, deserves some credit as a whistleblower. I don't know that I'd give her any credit, but whatever. Never ever did the Daily Mail culture war articles enjoy the power, and never ever will Daily Mail culture war articles enjoy the power and sting they once did. Now we know that it's not written by Black people, because again, when they put out these racist articles, when they have a Black person saying it, then all of a sudden they can wash their hands, like you were saying, laundering racism. They can wash their hands and be like, well, see, it's not us white people that's saying those things. It's the Black person. I see a Black person wrote that article. But did they? And so for, even though Nana, she blocked them and she wouldn't say that she wrote it yes or no, we all figured out that, she didn't write it. And she basically took money to put her and have them put her face and her name in an article that she did not write. And she basically sold out her people for money. And the article is basically a lie, comparing the statistic for the number of people that were at the carnival to the number of people arrested was only, and not that, and you don't excuse any violence, you wish none of it was there, but compared to other events that wasn't a Black, predominantly Black event, it was like 10%. There was like a 10% people compared to the amount of people that were there. Other events that she didn't target, which I'm assuming there was probably more of a mixture of white and Black, whatever, had so much higher, and she didn't target them. Again, there were like 2 million, over 2 million people at this carnival. And the reason Dominique said when they approached her to have her face and her name on said article, she had said no, because it didn't match up with her experience when she was at the carnival. And that's why she said no. And so Private Eye dropped this on us, and now we know for sure what happened. And so this, I will do a little bit of reading here. It says, BAME game, regular GB News pundit and self-proclaimed taught leader Dominique Samuels put a presumed end to what had been a lucrative arrangement with the Daily Mail this month, when she accused the paper of asking her, as a Black woman, to be the face of a ghost-written, negative, verging on racist piece about the subject of the Notting Hill Carnival. I eventually turned it down because it was a complete misinterpretation of what I witnessed while I was there, she tweeted. Although she was happy to fess up to previous Mail pieces, which appeared under her picture byline, having been ghostwritten by staff writers, including one bit of Meghan bashing headline, This clash of the royals is about culture, not race, which Dominique Samuel was ghostwritten, but her name and her picture is on that article, even though it was ghostwritten by a Daily Mail writer. It goes on to say it's pretty much standard, which is what Dominique is saying, pretty much standard for newspapers to have ghost writers for guest columnists, she told incredulous questioners. Eventually, when it came to the Carnival article, and I had been published by them multiple times, I had enough and wanted to write it myself. That, however, was not what the paper was after. Yeah, they don't want your great writing, Dominique. They just want you to front their racism. And so it goes on to say the Eye, or the Private Eye, can reveal that Dominique Samuels, was not the only BAME commentator approached by the Mail to put their face on the anti-carnival piece. This year, at least one other right-leaning race relations commentator was approached by the paper and sounded out about the gig. Although they were in the end passed over on the grounds that the editor thought GB News presenter Nana Akua was a safer option. Nana's name and face duly appeared beneath the beneath a full-page piece on August 31st edition, headlined Thug Rampaging with Zombies, Knives, 8 stabbings, 75 police officers hurt, open drug use, and revelers urinating in the gardens. To call this a celebration of Black culture is an insult. And that was the name and sort of the theme of the article, supposedly written by Inanna, that we're getting confirmation now that her face and the name were there, but it was not written by her. It goes on to say on the second page, it is indeed standard practice at the Mail for guest columnists not to pen their own contributions, but instead to chat on the phone to an in-house hack who will render their opinions into house style, quote unquote, which just happens to correspond precisely with what the editors wanted in the first place. They get the chance to read their words before publication and suggest amendments. And the commentator the I spoke to said that there have been occasions where they have in the past discovered loaded language and factual inaccuracies, and that if you don't have the time to read thoroughly, you run the risk of having something published that you don't agree with. They did, however, point out a major mitigating factor. It's such good money. Basically, they sell out their own name, their face, and their own community, the Black community, for money. It's such good money. And I remember when this first came out, people were on Twitter like, wait a minute, the Daily Mail is not going to pay people a lot of money. 2 sets of money, 2 sets of, people money for the same article. And my comment to that was like, money is not, these are billionaires, but that kind of money is nothing to them. What's most important to them is that race element. They want to be racist. They want to push their racist narrative out there. That is what is important to them. They will pay the money to get that narrative out there, to divide communities. That's what they're doing. And this is exactly what they did. So the article continues, says, so who are the ghostwriters responsible for actually churning out these why as a Black woman pieces that the Voice newspaper this month uncompromisingly described as blackfacing? They include regular YOY merchant Leo McKinstry, that's him at the top there, TV critic Christopher Stevens, that's him out there, you see him in the middle there, and Mail on Sunday editor editor emeritus Peter Wright. He used to be an editor, so now he just has, that sort of like Rupert Murdoch is. He's retiring, and he'll get to keep the title and call himself an editor, even though he has no, role in the company because he's been there, a long time. And it says, and so that's Peter Wright at the bottom, former Mail on Sunday editor. So it says the trio of white men in their 60s and 70s. And it's just like, when Dominique was talking before, that's one of the things she says, some of these articles were written by, the articles come out sounding like they were written by people in their 60s or something. And true enough, as this article from Private Eye is, and I'm glad they named them, they're in their 60s and 70s writing about a community they don't care about, a community they hate. And this is who are writing these articles that these Black reporters are putting, taking money to put their names and faces on. This is so sickening. This is so incredibly sickening, and it's just interesting that these, and going back to the article, at least Nell's tweet, and if you look at the bottom, these are the 3 men over there who, the writers up there, and look at the bottom. I don't know who the girl is, the girl between Nana and Dominique. I don't know who she is, but the rest of them work for GB News. And or at least, Dominique used to work for GB News. I don't know if she still works there, but they're all, and that's the thing. When you are willing to sell out like that, Calvin, he is the biracial one who basically, according to him, there's literally no racism in the UK. and he's on the show and he's there with Dan Wooten and all the rest of them, proud, basically downing the Black community, because there's no racism according to Calvin. And so now any article that you've seen from any of these people, and again, I don't know who the girl in the middle is, so I don't even know who to look up. So if any of you know who she is and I can look her up, that would be awesome. But it's just like, it's incredible to me that these men and women knowingly took money to destroy their own community. All because to move ahead, to get clout, to, fatten their pocket. I mean, what would make you take money from a news outlet that their history of destroying your own community? And you not only do that, you get on TV and GB News and say all these horrible things about your own people, lying to get accepted into the white community. They're never going to accept you. It is unbelievable to see these people. So again, it's not surprising they all work for GB News. And you would see Nana, for example. I saw an interview or something they were doing. I don't know if it's like, it looks like a sort of a roundtable thing, a BB News report where they had Nana on. And so I'm like, this hack from GB News, you're hiring her and what's supposedly a reputable news outlet, BBC. And so when I'm looking at this is all one and the same. So if this is happening at the Daily News, which is the Daily Mail, I'm sorry, which is one of their biggest, I'm assuming the same thing happened all around in UK press. And what is very interesting to me is many very vocal people in the Black and brown community in the UK that have been silent about this. I know they would have known and seen because they are on social media all the time. And they have been silent about this. So my question is, why are they silent? Have they also have done this in their career? For whatever the reason, it may not be just racist, racial things that they're talking about, but some of these reporters engage in this behavior. And why aren't they speaking about it and calling out their own for this kind of behavior? But again, I always look for what's not said. And there are many in the UK press that are very loud on social media all the time that have not said a word about this. So as much as it's despicable what the Daily Mail did and are doing and having these white writers writing all these, their hands aren't clean. This is not laundered. They are racist. It's just now we know about it, And so as much as they're to blame for all of this, the Black reporters who allow this and who take their money, even more so. Even more so. So it is highly despicable that this is the situation. So Nels went ahead and he wrote an article basically about, racism laundering. And so the article in The Guardian says, it is a sad aspect of public life that a quick route to success and notoriety for minorities in the UK is to express the most reactionary opinions imaginable. Witness Kwesi Kotong randomly and needlessly blurting out slavery apologia on Piers Morgan's show, or the careers so far of Priti Patel and Suella Braverman. They will have their own views as individuals, but at the same time, powerful people and institutions are aware of how useful it is to have their own prejudices mirrored, rendered acceptable, laundered perhaps by the minority voice, with the effect that it ostensibly shields them from criticism. The regrettable effects is particularly concerning when a doubt is raised as to whether the views as presented to the public are a true reflection of honestly held opinion or a distortion designed perhaps to further advance the toxic culture wars. A potent cocktail of moral licensing, commerce, and identity politics. Racism laundering is a process in which the skin color of an ethnic minority appears to facilitate policies, practices, and narratives that would otherwise be condemned as bigoted. Those involved may indeed hold bigoted views themselves. They may be seeking advancement or simply be reckless. They may be used as part of a wider agenda. But in any event, whatever the motivation, the effect is that they become a defense mechanism against a clear instances of accusation of racism. Basically, gatekeeping white supremacy. I mean, you talk, and I'm glad you brought up Suella Braverman and Priti Patel, because their roles as Home Secretary, the policies, the racist policies they have, especially against Black and brown people coming into, refugees coming into the UK, if a white person was in that role, they would never be able to get away with it. They would never be able to get away with it without being called racist. They wouldn't, and you know how British people feel when you call them racist. They will never be able to get away with that. And the reason Priti Patel and Suella Braverman are in those roles is for this specific reason. So that when they institute these racist policies by the government, it is more palatable to people, because it's like, well, they are, they are BAME. They are part of the BAME community. They are Southeast Asian. They are brown people, and they're doing it to their own brown people. So we are fine. You can't call us racist. Our hands are clean. It's washed clean. We're not racist because we're not the ones instituting that policy. Your own brown people are. And that's how that structure, that power structure works. They don't want to take responsibility for their racist policies. They put Black people in there, Black people who are willing to gatekeep for them, so that they can walk away smelling like roses. See, we're not racist. Your own people are doing that to you. And yet there are people like these Priti Patel and Suella Bravermans of the world, the Nana Akuas, the Dominiques of the world, and all of those others who are doing the same thing. They have them to sit there and do the dirty work for them, and they can walk away clean hands, so quote unquote clean hands. And it's just despicable. It is. I mean, I don't know how these people look at themselves in a mirror. Maybe the UK don't have mirrors. I'm beginning to think that there are no mirrors in that island, or that country. So it's really, really, really sickening to just, oh. I'm like, I don't even know how. Anyways, moving on from Shutter Island. Staying a little bit, but on a different topic. Brian Cartwright, he writes for Byline Times, and he also writes for Byline Investigates, and he created this website, and so Byline Investigates is promoting it along with Brian Cartwright, and it says Byline Investigates writer Brian Cartwright, who is the author of the award-winning The Case of Stephen Lawrence, has just launched a new website for anyone keen to know the facts about the UK's most notorious race murder. Have a look at discovermcpherson.com. And so that's the website. That's the front page at the on the website. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes so you can go take a look at it and browse through, and anything you want to know about the Stephen Lawrence case should be there. And of course, we know, that's Stephen's mom, Doreen Lawrence, or Baroness Doreen Lawrence, who is suing the Daily Mail along with Harry and Elton John and his Liz Hurley and all the others for breaching of her privacy and for basically hacking her. So, and of course, obviously, this Guardian article just titled this as Doreen Lawrence claims the Daily Mail hired investigators to hack her phone. High Court also hears claim against Associated Newspaper brought by Prince Harry, Elton John, Liz Hurley, among others. And so that case is still ongoing. Where I think we're waiting to hear about the judge about moving forward on that case. So who knows? I'm assuming it should be coming down soon. We're definitely going to be hearing about the mirror one. They said in September. We're already in the middle of September, so I don't know exactly when they're going to be dropping it. So when they do, let us know. We'll see. But again, if you want to know anything, get information about Stephen Lawrence, definitely jump in there and check out the website. So yeah. Also, there's this. I'm telling you, remember when Harry and Meghan left, the royal family, they basically had to give back all of their patronages, and one of the patronages that was taken away from Harry really upset the rugby union there, because they love Harry. Harry was so involved in the rugby, whether it's the men, the women, the kids. I mean, he was just all up into rugby. Harry is a rugby nut. And so one of the patronages that was taken away from him was this rugby. And they did not tell the rugby people that this was happening. So they were really surprised and they were really upset about it, because they really love Harry. And so obviously, the last time we saw when Harry was in Japan, before he went this last time, was at the rugby final in Japan. And of course he was in hanging out with the South African rugby players and all of that stuff. We have all those videos and all that stuff, but they took it away and gave it to Kate. So what's going on now? So the women rugby, I guess they have some kind of championship, going on now. And this is what is happening. BBC and ITV both refuse to broadcast England women's rugby. The BBC has snubbed the Red Roses by turning down a chance to show their upcoming matches against Canada, despite being offered the rights for free. They didn't have to pay anything. BBC and ITV could have just broadcast it, for women's sports. They refused. They offered the rights for free and turned it down. England hosts World Cup semifinalist Canada, ranked 4th in the world, at Sandy Park on Saturday, and the StoneX Stadium on September 30th, with both fixtures acting as warm-up games for the new global competition WXV. Both matches were offered to BBC for nothing, in hopes that they should be shown on BBC iPlayer as a bare minimum. But the corporation, which is 2 years into a 5-year deal to show the Women's Six Nation, is understood to have declined to show both games. When approached by the Telegraph Sports, the BBC said it did not comment on its sports rights negotiation. Bosses at the RFU are deeply frustrated by the situation, while fans have expressed their dismay on social media at there being no live TV offering for either match. And again, this is a Commonwealth country coming to your country to play. You are offered the rights for free to promote women's sports, and they're like, nah. And who is the patron? Kate Middleton. Now, we already had the situation of Prince William literally refusing, even though his people would have gotten him to Australia to watch the women football, and refused. Kate Middleton is the patron of women of rugby, really all of it. You would think Kate Middleton would be advocating for this. I'm sure Prince Harry would have been advocating for this. He would have shown up and made sure that he would have done everything, whether it's like, look, I am coming to these matches, and, inviting the press to come, whatever they need to do. Kate Middleton is one of the people that, even more so than any other member of the royal family that's out there in the UK, she's the one that the press will go after. She's the one that the press will follow. You would think that she, as patron of rugby, she would do every single thing to make sure that this is on TV, that it's being promoted on television, and especially that they're playing another Commonwealth country, one of their biggest Commonwealth country, and their most solid partners. You think you'd want to promote them, but no, they're not doing it. So is Kate Middleton going to start promoting this? And is she going to start advocating for these women? Is she going to go to BBC? I mean, BBC has been carrying her Christmas thing. You would think she would have a relationship with them, be like, look, I'm going to be there. I'm going to bring attention to you. Advertisers would follow me. I know if you know, I don't want to, and anyway, I'm not going to bring them into it. But I mean, I can't imagine if Harry was the, you know, the patron of rugby, that he wouldn't have been like, look, I will be showing up. I will be bringing celebrities. I would be doing whatever it is to make sure that women's sports are promoted. Yet again, the royal family are silent, as they were silent and not even show up for the women when they were playing the finals in Australia. It is so disgusting. I mean, and I'm hoping that by the time this match it plays, you know, tomorrow, that they, or I'm sorry, not tomorrow, on the 30th, that she would get on the ball and start promoting this and make sure that they get some TV coverage, because without any TV coverage, they're just gonna, you know, they're so frustrated. They're like, their only option is to live stream it. You would hope that that's not the case. You would hope the patron of rugby would go out there and support other women. And again, she does not have a history of supporting women as we have seen and as we know. So is this going to change? We will see, because there are lots of pictures of her going to rugby for those photo ops, including this photo right there. Going to the stadiums for these photo ops, and she's doing that to promote her stuff. Now, is she going to now promote rugby and promote these women? We shall see. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyways, moving on to positive things. Get away from that mess. Even though we're staying on Shutter Island, but we are staying on Shutter Island with Misan, because we talked about this before. Misan, completely different. Different topic. Breath of fresh air, Misan. And the last time we saw Misan was at in Dusseldorf, taking those amazing photos. But Misan is also a filmmaker. He just made this short film, and that's starring David Oyelowo, and that, you know, got into some festivals in the US, and it's now qualified for the Oscars. So, you know, fingers crossed that it would get there. But Misan just got a really big write-up at Deadline, even though the Deadline is still in my doghouse because of all the stuff they caused with the Sussexes. But this is a Hollywood trade paper, and Misan got a big write-up in it. And so very excited for Misan. It says exclusive, The After, which is the name of the title of Misan's film. The After, the debut short for photographer Misan Harriman, best known for his portraits of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, will debut on Netflix on October 25th after screening at the London Festival. So yes, hopefully that means Netflix America, that we can see his film there. The Oscar qualified short stars David Oyelowo and comes from a story by Harriman with a screenplay by writer John Lewis Schwabach. The story follows Deo Oyelowo, a Londoner who has to reconnect with himself and society after witnessing a devastating random attack in the capital. And so a little bit about Misan. It says, The After is Harriman's first narrative film project. A self-taught photographer, he is the first Black person to shoot the September cover of British Vogue. Yes, his photography work has been featured in Vanity Fair, Harper's Bazaar, and The Telegraph. He is best known for portraits of Meghan, Prince Harry. His other subjects include Angelina Jolie, Jay-Z, Tom Cruise, Julia Roberts, Rihanna, Kate Blanchett, Olivia Colman, and many others, actually. And in 2021, he was appointed chair trustee at the South Bank Center. And he also does Save the Children. He recently had a TED Talk that Meghan introduced. I mean, this man is doing amazing. Before he got to Dusseldorf and was doing photography there, he was also out in California, invited out there by Apple to view their, I guess, latest products and all of that. So he is doing amazing, and he's having all these incredible opportunities. Again, I'm so happy for Misan. Such a really amazing man. And it's so great to see great things happen to really good people. He is good people. So compassionate, so wonderful. Have such a great, soft heart. And I am just so happy for him. So congratulations, Misan. I look forward to seeing The After. So I'm so happy. Yes. Kudos to him. And I look forward to him getting an Oscar nomination. Yes. So that would be amazing as well. So anyway, kudos to Misan. And what else is happening? The Royal Air Force. The journey of Team UK in the Invictus Games DE has been nothing short of inspiring. This year, 19 of the 59 competitors that formed Team UK hailed from the Royal Air Force veteran and military personnel community and made all of us immensely proud. And so I'm just happy whenever anybody in any of the vets get any kind of praise from the UK, whether it's from the military or the, MPs or whatever little there comes their way from, say, the government, and zero from the royal family, as we know. But whatever little praise that they get, I'm just happy to see it. So it's great for the Air Force to be shouting out their 19 people that were part of the team. So kudos to all of them who did a great job. Team UK were wonderful. So congratulations to all of them. And then Canada is so funny. They have been like this. Canadian Armed Forces are like, have you heard? Canada will be hosting the first ever winter hybrid Invictus Games in 2025. We'll be welcoming athletes from around the world to compete in adaptive sports, including sports that are new to the games. We can't contain our excitement. We know, Canada, we know. And have I heard? No, this is really the first time I'm hearing it. Canada, of course we know. I mean, they are so funny. They are like literally, they have been counting down long before the Dusseldorf game started. It is a wonderful, their excitement. And again, I talk about this all the time. This is how you know you're successful. When you have put your heart and your vision into other people and they have taken it as their own, you couldn't tell them these games didn't originate with them. Like forget about you, Prince Harry. These are our games. We started it, not you. And I love their excitement. So yes, have you heard about the Canadian Games? But we'll see you. Lord willing, keeps us all alive. We'll be there in Vancouver and Whistler. So very exciting. Thank you, Canadian Armed Forces. They are so fun. And finally, the TPL Foundation, which is the True Patriot Love Foundation in Canada. Obviously, there they are with Harry and Meghan when Harry and Meghan went to visit them. And of course, this was Harry's, I think this was Harry's birthday. And of course, that's Officer Gendron there with the bagpipes, and we know the story that Harry told at the closing ceremony about the bagpipes and how much and what it meant to Officer Gendron. And if you don't know the story, put the link in the show notes for the closing speech of Harry. He talks about him, playing the bagpipes. Wasn't sure he can even, he would even be able to play it because of what it represented for him. Everybody has been in tears with that story. So if you don't know it, just check out the link and see, so that way you can watch Harry's closing speech at the Invictus Games. But TPL Foundation from Canada posted this about meeting Harry and Meghan, who went to visit them there at Canada House. It says, "Thank you, Duke and Duchess, for your inspiring visit with Team Canada at the Invictus Games. We are deeply honored and grateful to have had the privilege of hosting the Duke and Duchess at this year's Invictus Games Dusseldorf. Their presence filled our team with pride and inspiration. Their genuine warmth and support for our brave members left an indelible mark on everyone. We couldn't be more thankful for their commitment to recognizing the resilience and dedication of our wounded, injured, and sick service members. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Duke and Duchess for their unwavering support. Your visit meant the world to Team Canada and all those who cherish the Invictus spirit." And I read that. It's like, oh, that is awesome. So I was like, oh, what a wonderful way to close this episode. And, again, a little bit about Patriot Love Foundation, and they basically are a foundation that supports veterans and their families. So obviously, if you're interested, I'm gonna put the link to them in our show notes. If you're interested in finding out about them and or donating to them, definitely do due diligence. I know, definitely research them, and if you're able to and willing to, definitely, I'm sure they'll welcome your donation. So I will put the link to that in the show notes. But I just thought it was such a great note. And I was like, oh, wow, that is the impact of the Invictus Games in people's lives. And it's just wonderful to see. So absolutely, absolutely cool. So anyway, so that's it. That's all I got. Thank you guys so much. Again, I'm going to be posting this later today. Thank you so much to our awesome moderators, Lydia, Trish, Nelly, Karen M, Cookies and Cream, Black Queen. How many of you would be in the chat today? Don't know, but to all of you at all times, thank you all so much for the incredible work that you do in keeping our space safe. Thank you to our Gold Store supporters who support the chat on our podcast on a monthly. I always say chat. Support the podcast on a monthly basis, and to all the Gold Store supporters who support, whether it's super chat, super thanks, super stickers, donation in the chat. Thank you all so much for your incredible support that you help the channel to be able to help me to be able to do what I do. So I appreciate every single one of you. And as you can see, go ahead again, subscribe, like, click the notification bell so you know when we drop a video, like and share the video, and join the channel. But anyway, thank you guys so much. I will check with you, and I shall chat with you tomorrow, hopefully. Have a fantastic day, and yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.